April 1519. The Spanish camp at Veracruz had settled into a rhythm of patrols, construction, and cautious contact with nearby villages. Yet, beneath the order was a quiet unease. Many of Cortés's men still spoke longingly of Cuba, of safety, of retreat. Whispers carried through the campfires at night. Perhaps we should sail back before it is too late. Cortés listened, and he understood. To conquer this new land, hesitation was his greatest enemy. Retreat could not remain an option. One morning, he summoned his captains and soldiers to the shoreline where the fleet rested in the shallows. 11 ships stood against the horizon, the very vessels that had brought them across the ocean. They were more than ships. They were a lifeline, a promise of return. Cortés looked over his men, measuring the fear and resolve in their eyes. He spoke with calm determination. We face a land of vast empires, countless warriors, and unknown gods. If we carry the thought of retreat in our hearts, we are already defeated. Our path is forward, or not at all. Confusion rippled through the ranks. Some men exchanged uneasy glances, realizing what was to come even before Cortés gave the order. Then the command was spoken, sharp and final. The ships were to be destroyed. Axes struck wood and fire was set to canvas. Smoke billowed into the sky as hulls cracked and timbers burned. The sound of destruction echoed across the bay. For many, it felt like watching their last hope vanish into smoke and ash. Some cursed under their breath. Others stood silent, gripping their swords tighter. The men soon realized the meaning. There would be no turning back. Only one road remained, into the heart of Mexico. Cortés addressed them once more, his voice firm, unwavering. You see before you the proof that retreat is no longer possible. We march forward, not as men who doubt, but as conquerors who choose destiny. Together, we will carve our place in history. From that day, the fleet that had carried them across the Atlantic existed no more. The Spanish in Veracruz were bound irrevocably to the land before them. Fear turned to resolve. Whatever awaited them, allies, enemies, or empires, their fate was sealed. With the ships gone, the Spanish stood fully committed. Cortés wasted no time. He organized the army, roughly 500 men, 15 horsemen, several dozen crossbowmen and arquebusiers, and a handful of cannons. Supplies were inventoried, alliances considered, and scouts sent forward. The march inland was about to begin. The land itself became an enemy. Dense forests pressed against the columns, humidity clung to armor, and strange insects bit at their skin. Men labored to drag cannons over muddy paths, their boots sinking into the soil. Yet discipline held. Cortés rode at the head, his presence a constant reminder that this was more than survival. It was conquest. Villages appeared along the way. Some greeted the strangers with cautious offerings of food and water. Others fled into the forest at the first sight of steel and horses. The interpreters, Jerónimo de Aguilar and Malintzin, whom the Spaniards called Doña Marina, became essential. Through them, words crossed the gulf between worlds. At night, campfires flickered beneath the canopy. Soldiers whispered their fears, the endless forests, the unseen eyes watching from the shadows. But Cortés reassured them. He moved from fire to fire, speaking quietly, instilling resolve. Every step we take brings us closer to glory. We have come not to wander, but to win. Along the march, emissaries from the Totonacs arrived. They told Cortés of their resentment toward the Aztec tribute collectors. They spoke of heavy burdens, endless demands for food, goods, and even their sons and daughters for sacrifice. Cortés listened carefully. Here, he saw opportunity. When Aztec emissaries confronted him, demanding that the Spaniards pay tribute to Emperor Moctezuma, Cortés refused. His words were sharp, deliberate. "Tell your emperor that we are not his subjects. We will not bow to him. We are here as ambassadors of a great king across the sea." This defiance shocked the emissaries, but it won admiration among the Totonacs. To them, Cortés was not a new overlord, but a potential ally against the oppressive Mexica. The march continued, step by step, deeper into the highlands. The Spaniards grew weary, yet they carried with them something greater than fear, the knowledge that entire nations might stand beside them against the Aztec Empire. The march into the highlands soon brought the Spaniards into the territory of the Tlaxcalans, a proud people who had long resisted Aztec domination. For centuries, Tlaxcala had stood as a thorn in the side of the Mexica Empire, fiercely defending its independence. Cortés knew that gaining Tlaxcalan support could shift the balance of power, yet he also understood that trust would not be freely given. The Tlaxcalans viewed the newcomers with suspicion, uncertain if these armored strangers were allies or another kind of conqueror. At first, the Tlaxcalans chose war. Skirmishes erupted along mountain passes as Tlaxcalan warriors rained down arrows and spears on the marching Spaniards. The conquistadors fought back with steel blades, muskets, and cavalry charges that stunned their opponents. The fighting was fierce and costly. For weeks, the two sides clashed in bloody battles across ridges and valleys. The Tlaxcalans fought with determination, unwilling to submit, while the Spaniards pressed on with their unyielding discipline and devastating weaponry. Finally, after heavy losses on both sides, diplomacy prevailed. Tlaxcalan leaders recognized the Spaniards' strength and saw an opportunity to strike back against their old enemies, the Aztecs. Cortés, in turn, offered alliance and promises of shared victory. Thus, Tlaxcala became one of the most critical allies in the conquest. From hostility was born partnership, and the Spaniards now marched with thousands of native warriors at their side, reshaping the struggle for Mexico's future. After weeks in the highlands, Cortés and his allies approached Cholula, one of the largest and wealthiest cities outside Tenochtitlan. Cholula was known for its wealth, its elaborate temples, and its allegiance to the Aztecs. Cortés knew diplomacy would be crucial. The Spanish sent emissaries to negotiate entry, offering gifts and words of peace. Yet beneath the city's calm, tension simmered. Cortés suspected treachery. Reports indicated that the city might attack the Spaniards during their visit. Preemptive measures were taken. Spanish soldiers and Tlaxcalan allies discreetly positioned themselves within Cholula's streets and plazas. The city erupted in chaos. Spaniards and Tlaxcalan allies struck swiftly, overwhelming Cholulan warriors who had planned resistance. What followed would be remembered as one of the bloodiest events of the conquest, leaving Cholula in ruins and its people terrified. Cortés sent messages to Tenochtitlan, warning of his arrival and demonstrating the deadly effectiveness of his combined forces. From the highlands to Cholula, every step reinforced the Spaniards' dominance and the necessity of caution, diplomacy, and strategic brutality. With Tlaxcalan allies at their side, Cortés led the combined army through the valley toward Tenochtitlan. The march was both triumphant and tense. Every village, every river crossing, every ridge was scrutinized for signs of resistance or opportunity. The Spaniards maintained their disciplined columns, while Tlaxcalan warriors moved with speed and familiarity, guiding the newcomers through hidden paths and marshy causeways. As the Great Lake came into view, soldiers marveled at its size, its waters dotted with canoes, and the sprawling city rising from the center. Cortés reminded his captains that the campaign ahead required strategy, patience, and careful alliances. "This is no longer just a march," he said. "This is a test of diplomacy, strength, and foresight." Messages were sent ahead to Tenochtitlan, offering greetings, gifts, and warnings, while scouts gathered intelligence on fortifications, marketplaces, and the movements of warriors. The combined army moved with purpose. Soldiers whispered about the grandeur of the city, its wealth, and the challenge it represented. Cortés himself reflected on how quickly alliances could shift and how fragile trust could be. As they approached the outskirts, the mountains and ridges framed the vast expanse of the lake, revealing causeways stretching toward the heart of the Aztec Empire. Every step was deliberate, every observation mattered. The Spaniards and their allies now stood on the threshold of Tenochtitlan, ready to confront one of the greatest civilizations the world had ever seen.